Welcome to the Griefy Girls Book Club, where every month we dive into a griefy read. From memoirs to biographies to fantasy, romance, and beyond. If it touches on grief, it's fair game. We're your hosts. I'm Kendall Rogers.
And I'm Rachel Dwyer. You might know us from our podcast, Two Girls with Grief. For us, reading is both healing and a powerful way to explore grief. So we knew it was time to give it the attention it truly deserves. Join us as we unpack our favorite moments, chat about upcoming reads, and even host interviews with guest authors. And you can bet we'll be yapping about our ever-growing TBR piles too.
So, whether you're here for the books, the banter, or a little bit of both, we're so glad to have you with us. Let's read, reflect, and grow in our grief together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. So, today we're starting our new format of the Griefy Girls Book Club. So, we're still going to do our book club episodes, but they're going to be one episode. And then we're going to do other episodes just talking about other books we're reading, give some reviews, some books that we've read on NetGalley because we've been doing NetGalley and trying to share our views there, as well as like books that we're excited about to read in the future. And so it's going to be a mix of griefy books and just other books that we're interested in because we love books over here. We think that like any book that puts you into a new world, like takes you into a new world, is healing in its own way. If it can make you use your imagination, take you to another place, to us, that is a good book experience. So we're going to be sharing all of that today. And then we'll also announce our next book club pick at the end of this episode. So stay tuned.
I'm excited to hear about other books and the books that you're reading and kind of branch out that conversation. You and I have so many conversations about books and the benefits of reading and book culture in general. So I feel like this has always been a facet of the Griefy Girls Book Club, but also just in our Two Girls with Grief podcast, we talk a lot about reading and the benefits of it for your healing journey. So I'm excited just to branch off and hear about other books out there that we might not ever get to because they aren't grief, quote unquote, books, but they touch on grief. So this is really exciting.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of pair well with our season 3 of our Two Girls with Grief podcast once we start that again, because we're trying to also focus on like joy and life with grief and not just being in the thick of grief and like how do you live a good life with grief. So I feel like it pairs well of like part of grief is just dealing with everyday life and everyday things. And so it doesn't have to be just like solely grief focused for it to be healing or something fun or good for you.
Yeah.
We kind of want to make it all align. So first we're going to go through NetGalley books because we have thankfully been approved to do NetGalley and gotten a lot of good arcs. And so I've been reading all like the romance ones. And so I'm going to go through all of the romance ones. I'm going to quickly like talk about them and share my reviews of them. And then Kendall did the one griefy book we have on there so far. There's also a bunch that need to catch up on as well. So there's that. But so the first book that I read on NetGalley, which is a romance, is Friends to Lovers by Sarah Blakely. And so Friends to Lovers, it follows two childhood best friends, and I am a sucker for any like best friend romance. That was always something you watch in movies. I just always love that. And so the best friends are Ren, who is my favorite. It's the male character, and then Joni. They grew up together, and of course, like they fell in love, but neither one of them wanted to say anything. And then during one of these weddings, because they like promised to always go to weddings together in their adulthood, they hooked up and then it just blew up. And so the book starts with them basically they had a talk for 2.5 years and it just kind of comes to them like reuniting for her sister's wedding. It's a second chance romance, close proximity, best friends to lovers romance. And for me, this book, I rate about like a 4 out of 5 because it's like a nice romancy book. There's no grief in it. I don't know if my era of growing up, but like the boy next door, best friend romances were like always my favorite books growing up. So I enjoyed this. It made me feel like nostalgia for being younger and simpler with love. So I thought it was like a 4 out of 5 read. It's not like anything crazy, but enjoyable. And that's really the point. So check that one out if you're a fan of those type of tropes. The next book, I'm going to try to go through these fairly quickly because I've read a good amount, but I also want to give each book enough shine. So the next book is a short story, and I don't usually like short stories, but it's by 831 Stories, I think. And I've always seen their books, but I've never read them until getting these arcs on NetGalley. And the only one I've read so far is Square Waves by Alexander Romanoff, but I actually really like this story. And this is actually based in the Bay Area. So I think that was part of it too. Like I could actually like picture the places they were talking about. It was just really easy for me to like envision the plot and the storyline in like that Bay Area lens.
Mm-hmm.
So the story follows Cassidy. So she's burned out in her late 20s. She's a bit lost. She's dealing with like a Monica Lewinsky-esque scandal that happened 6 years ago. So she's dealing, yeah. So there's a lot of issues with that. And she goes home because she needs a break. And she ends up out of her hometown bar, and she bumps into her high school like nemesis / crush. And then the story kicks off from there. And it's definitely like enemies to lovers, but there's also so many like deeper elements to it as well. And for a short story, I actually was happy with it. I think my biggest issue with short stories is like I feel like it's just when I get interested, it ends. And then there's no ending. And I'm like, what? Like I want to know how this ends. Like I'm like a big fan of like happy endings. And there's none. But for this book, I feel like it ended in a place that you're like, okay, full circle, happy ending. But I feel like it went through a lot of different things. The friendships felt really real. Like everything I feel like was really well developed, especially for a short story. So good little romance and friend development and like real life friend issues and, you know, bigger themes with like the Monica Lewinsky scandal that led the plot. But overall, I really enjoyed it. So I would say this is like a 5 out of 5 for me for like a short story and romance because it felt just really real. So, and it was in the Bay Area. So props for that. The next book on this NetGalley journey was Last Night Was Fun by Holly Michelle. So this book, I feel like is more cheesy romance. I don't know if have you ever read or watched like The Hating Game?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that. And it's also had like some You Got Mail, Never Been Kissed vibes. Like the ending scene is very much Never Been Kissed vibes. And this book follows Emmy and Gabe and their coworkers who like hate each other, quote unquote, and they're vying for the same promotion while also like falling in love with each other. Basically, the main character Gabe was given a wrong number at a bar, and that number was just happened to be his coworker, and so they're texting and flirting and like falling in love, but also kind of in person. The book does though have like the trope that I hate, besides it being kind of cheesy, is like the miscommunication trope is my least favorite trope. Like she overheard something and just like ran with it. And then just like totally was just really rude. And I was just like, why? When there could be one conversation.
Yes.
And it ends everything and it's like this whole big thing. And then people are like so mean. I'm like, I hate that trope. That is like my least favorite trope. So I give this one like a 3 because I just hate the third act. Third act breakups, like miscommunication, I hate, especially when it's like this bad of a third act breakup.
Yeah, when it's those type of tropes and it's like you want to strangle the character and it's like if you didn't understand something, just ask the question. Like just have one conversation and clear it up. Like, but they're like you just dive deeper and deeper into the craziness.
Yeah, like to me, I'm like, if you guys had such a great relationship and you built such rapport, you're saying like you just never got to know someone so well and blah blah blah, this strong connection, and you're willing to throw it away by like a miscommunication. No.
Yeah, without any clarity or clarifying questions or conversations.
Like, no thank you, pass. So that one's like a 3 for me. The next one is a single dad's guide to recreation. I didn't write who the author was here. Sorry to the author, I don't have the name, but it's such a unique title that you'll find it when you Google it. So this book follows Avery and Josh, and it's like an unlikely pair. Avery's overworked pushover, and Josh is the widowed dad of 2, and they just moved to this place called Climax, and that is the name for his new job. And so what I did appreciate about this book and this romance, it's like very cliche romancy book, like insta love, which I also don't really like. I did appreciate though, because I feel like every dad romance book that I've read, like single dad romance, there's always a huge age gap. Like the girl is always like in her early 20s and the dad is like mid to late 30s or later. And I just feel like that's a very unrealistic age gap for that. I feel like in your early 20s, do you really want to be married to a guy that has kids in his later 30 to 40s when you're still like learning who you are and stuff? Like that's kind of my main thing. It's just like you don't really know who you are. You want to be like married to somebody that is in a way different spot with your life is basically. So this book didn't do that. It was like they were close in age, and I feel like it's just like a feel good romance book, insta love, nothing crazy, easy read. I read it in like a day. So like if you're just looking for like a fun, cute romance, you like the single dad trope, this is the book for you. So go check that one out. The next one is Scotch on the Rocks by Elliot Fletcher. And this book was kind of a disappointment to me because I really liked Whiskey Business, which is his first one of the series. It's like of these macabre brothers. I don't know if I'm even pronouncing them right. But the first one was like so cute. It was like the brother was like more shy, but he was like, you know, just very sweet. You know, it's a little like grumpy sunshine type of character. But there was like a build up with like the romance in that book. And it felt so like cute, and I love those interactions. So to go to that and then reading this book where it was like instantly instant love and they just like couldn't get enough of each other, like instant connection. Also, she was engaged, the FMC was engaged to another one of the brothers before.
Tea.
I also didn't like that. It just, that was like, and the guy was saying like, I'll give up my brother for this girl. I'm like, you don't even know her. Like, it's just insta love. Like, it was just, I was like, as someone that lost her sister, I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
This girl that you don't even know, like, it was basically like he saw her on a train and was like instantly like in love with her, which is like not a thing. And then he came back to their house and he found out that she was dating his brother already. But it's like, through that instance, like you love her and you're willing to dump your brother for her. Yeah, I gave it a 3.5 just because I liked the first book, which has nothing to do with this book, so whatever. I'm just like, insta love and third act breakups are like my least favorite tropes, so if it involves that, I'm just not going to be happy. So almost done with these NetGalley ones ish. So the next book is Only Lovers in the Building by Nadine Gonzalez. And I read it in a day. It was like a very fun, easy romance. It follows Lily, who's a lawyer who quit her job and she just needed new scenery, and she went to Miami. Or I think she was in Miami. She decided to stay. Like she was in a work conference. And then she rents like an Airbnb type thing, and she meets her neighbor, Ben, who's across from hall from her. And it was like a very simple plot. I felt like their love was very like slow but cute, and there was nothing crazy. And what I did like is that they started like a romance book club,
Cute.
and then they started a podcast. So I was like, oh, that's kind of like
Wow.
art imitating life, except I don't have a Ben.
You have a
Do you?
Kindle.
Yeah. So it's so funny you said Kendall, but it sounded like Kindle, and I like, that's what Riverside always corrects your name to, is Kindle.
Yeah.
I do also have a Kindle, but yeah, the book is like, there's nothing crazy in the plot. I think it's supposed to like play off of like Only Murders in the Building, where there's like a bunch of other side characters. I don't think the side characters were super well developed that you really had an opinion on them.
Yeah.
But I do think the romance was just like sweet and cute, and like there's like notes involved and stuff like that, which I'm like a sucker for. So to me, it was still a cute read. I think I gave it like a 3.5 stars. Like nothing crazy, but like sometimes romance books, you just need like a cute story. And so that one's good. I think this is the last one of the ones that I've read for NetGalley. The next one is The Cuffing Game by Lila Lee. So this book follows Noah and Mia, and they're in college. So I think Noah's a senior and Mia's a freshman. And it goes through like enemies to lovers, and then it's in like a reality TV setting. Like Mia creates a reality show reality show for her like school project, and she does it because she has a crush on this Noah guy who's like a big online Korean star or something, like Instagram, TikTok type of famous. And I think it had a good like premise, but I just felt like the execution was like, I never felt any connection between any of the characters at all. And so for it to be like Noah and Mia like each other so much, like there's no build up to them doing that. And then it was just kind of chaotic in the scene of a reality show where there's so many different characters that you just like, I didn't feel any connection to anybody at all. Anyone's like, I wasn't rooting for anyone's romance in this entire book. which I feel like the point for me is for a romance book is like you want to be rooting for the characters. So I think I give this one like a 3, maybe a 2.5. Like just there's so much going on. Books are subjective, so you may like it. I just wasn't a fan. So Kendall, take us through the book that you read on NetGalley.
Yeah, so you requested this, and I think it was because we were requesting grief books, and it was Black Girl Grief by Natasha Smith. And I listened to it through the audio format, which was a great little quick read. I think I got it done in like a day or 2 days. And through a grief context, it's a really great book. I think I wish, like, I see it as like a great book to give as a gift for a griever, for someone who might be starting a grief journey for the first time and not knowing how to navigate the complexity of all those emotions. And for the sake of the podcast, I am a white woman, and reading Black Girl Grief really educated and enlightened me on a lot of issues around grief that Black women face. And you and me, as we talk about grief, it was really nice to just feel educated in that sense. And Natasha does a great job. I think just bringing awareness around that pain and how do we as a community help each other. She's very like compassionate and empathetic. And as someone who's not super rooted in the Bible, her book is really biblically driven, but still surrounded with a lot of facts and history and context. So I feel like it was a really well-rounded book, especially for someone who may not know what to do with their grief or how to navigate their emotions through grief. As I was saying to you, I think it would be wonderful to have Natasha on and talk about what led her to write Black Girl Grief. I know she's written some other books kind of around trauma and pain and the experience of Black women. So it was just a really nice, I don't want to say nice about a grief book, but it was very like heartfelt and it was very intentional. And you could tell she put a lot of herself into it, and she really wants to help other people. So that really resonated, I think, with a lot of what you and I do in trying to help people navigate their grief. So I think I gave that a 4. And I mean, it's a kind of a memoir a little bit. She talks a lot about her own experience, but then also talk about like history and grief throughout history. So I thought it was very personal, and I felt like I was talking to like a friend. So I think I rated it a 4. But yeah, that was the only book I read on NetGalley.
The goal is to like for us both to read, not all of them, because some of them are just like a bunch of romance books that I requested, but there's a few that are like overlapping of our interests that that's on Kendall's TBR that we'll get to. So future episodes we'll mention those as well in there. But that was like a good, very related griefy read that I haven't read yet because I also have a bunch of other books to read, and I just went to the library and got a bunch more books, which even though I have a bunch. But what are you reading right now? And is anything exciting that you'd recommend?
So other than Black Girl Grief, I've read, this is a book you gave me for my birthday and I finally got around to it, but it is Work in Progress by Kat McKenzie. And Kat, if you are listening, you are such a fan. You are always commenting every time I tag your book. So thanks for like the back and forth. It's been a lot of fun and getting to know you. So this is a romance book, as it is per Rachel's taste. And it was super cute. It was based on like a girl, she breaks off her wedding. She decides to take like quarter life crisis. She takes this literary tour in Scotland. And of course, the tour guide is Scottish and love begins to ensue. But it's definitely enemies to lovers. And it also I love too, and I was really into it. But it does have the miscommunication trope in it. And I'm wanting to like wring her neck, and I'm like, just ask a question. Just ask one question and be okay.
One clarifying question. That's all we ask.
Yeah. It was one of those things that's like she overhears it and she thinks she knows the whole thing. And I'm like, girl, I can see this a mile away. This isn't what you're thinking. So other than that, I thought it was really cute. It was really funny. It was charming. I think this is a really good book for people who feel a little lost in life, because to get into kind of more of a sentimental point, she kind of feels lost in life. Everything in her life has gone out the window. And she's like, I'm a planner. I had goals that I was going to meet. I'm ambitious. I wanted a family type of thing. And then on this trip, she's like, nothing is going how I planned in my life. And so what do I do now? and she's surrounded by all these old ladies on the trip, and they all kind of share advice about how do you navigate life when it doesn't go your way, and how do you pick yourself up whenever you kind of fell down or came across an obstacle. So there was a lot of just like cute little things and about, life isn't going to go your way sometimes. And I think that's like relevant with grief too. And
Yeah.
it's not like there's no like death in this book, but it does hit on topics of like the older women had lost people. Like they've lost their husbands or they've lost their sisters, and like how that shapes them as people. And so it was really sweet in that regard that you had this cast of old ladies, each one with a very different personality, and then these two younger people falling in love, but they hate each other at the same time. So a great pick. I think I gave it 4 stars. 4 stars, and it was really cute. And I'm gonna give it to my sister because she went to Scotland, and if you love
Oh,
Scotland,
yeah.
it's a great little book. So it was a lot of fun. I was reading up about her, Kat Mackenzie, and she's a expat. She's traveled the world, so it is really rooted in like real places in Scotland, like actual castles. And so as they're going on their literary tour, I'm looking up like the places they're going. I'm like, oh wow, that's really like really beautiful, really cool. So you're kind of like on a
I feel like
couch
you'd
kind of
like
cliche.
I feel like you'd like a literary tour.
I would love a literary tour. In fact, I was like, I should go on a literary tour with a bunch of old ladies.
That
That's
would actually fit you as well.
I would be as happy as a clam, and it was just so charming and cute. And sometimes, like, you just need a break from your life, and that was kind of in this case. She just needed like a step back to get clarity on what she wanted to do. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody that wants to end up reading it in the future. But at one point, I'm screaming, and I'm like, "No, this is not going how every rom-com book goes." But then there's a twist. So
Oh, yeah. Actually, I was like, have I read a book where it like actually ended that way? And you're like, oh, you know what? Ish. Like, it was Abby Jimenez Just for the Summer book. I feel like that one was like a much deeper rom-com, but it's romance, but it's deeper. So it's not just like romance. There's a lot of other things going on. So I feel like that was a book where I was like, is this gonna actually not end happy? It's called Just for the Summer. Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's called Just for the Summer, and in my head, it's like the perfect summer romance if you called that. But yeah,
yeah,
anything else you're reading?
I just finished this yesterday, and it's the last thing he told me. And I read the other one that just came out, like, what is it? The last time we saw him or something.
Is that the book that it's like a show now?
Yeah, this one is the show. Yeah, it has an Apple
Okay.
TV series.
Okay, yeah, I've seen the show.
Oh, really? How funny. I was like, I
Yeah.
should watch the show now. So, yeah, I read the other one because the other one is griefy, and I think she's kind of like a mystery thriller writer, but very engaging. It's really easy to like get into the books. So I really liked the other one, and I think it's something we might cover eventually as a book club book because it does talk more about like death and loss and grief. This one, it was like there was a death, but it was a part of the plot, and it doesn't really go into like navigating grief.
Mhm.
But I liked it anyways because it's a mystery about like a stepmom and her stepdaughter, and they don't really get along. But how do they work together to find their missing husband slash father? Um, and weird enough, I'm reading this book, and it takes place in Sausalito. So I'm like, oh my
Oh yeah, yeah.
gosh, like here we are in the Bay Area. But then they go, the second half of the book is based in Austin, Texas. And so then I was like, oh my
Oh,
god, this is
so
crazy.
our two worlds combining.
I know.
If
I
you
was
don't
like,
know,
Laura Dave.
I'm in California and Kendall's in Texas. For those that don't know, which is why that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's like specific mentions to the University of Texas Longhorn football team, and I'm a UT fan. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is wild. So it has a closer place in my heart than probably most people because it was like this. It starts off in Sausalito and then it wraps up in Austin. So that was kind of a cool little synchronicity, but very easy. I like read this in 2 days. I couldn't put it down, and like I was audibly saying like, "Oh my god, this is crazy! Oh my god, I can't believe this is happening." like frustrated I had to go to sleep because I wanted to just finish the book and know how it ended. So
Yeah, the ending, at least in the show, was like, the fuck?
yeah, I was like, well, how did I feel? A little conflicted, but also just like the whole twist of it all. And I was like, what is happening?
There's
Like,
twists, and I don't know that I was happy for any of the twists.
Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna check out the show. I didn't realize Jennifer Gardner play the lead.
Yes.
So I was like, oh my gosh, big name. So I'm definitely gonna check it out because that was exciting. But that is the 3 books I've read in the month of April.
The books I've read. So I'm currently reading, I was so excited for it too, and I'm reading Abby Jimenez's Say You'll Remember. Yeah, I'm like, how do you say that properly? With her current book that just released in the beginning of April is Say You'll Remember Me. And I have started, and I'm probably like halfway through, but I'm like unsure if I'm gonna like it. So I feel like I've just like paused it. But also there's like a lot of people waiting because I reading it through Libby because I read so many mixed reviews about the book that I was like, okay, I don't want to buy it, you know, like I'll wait my turn on Libby, see if I actually like it. Because she has a series called Part of Your World, and specifically Part of Your World, that book is like one of my favorite books. It's just like such cute banter. The love story is so cute. I just think it's like a really cute book. And 3 books in her series I like. She has another series that's not part of her world series, and I didn't like any of the story plots as much. Like I felt like there's like things that like just didn't really make sense. I wasn't a huge fan. But her Part of the World series, which is her more recent work, I think, I really liked that. So I was like, okay, I'm so excited for her next book. And I don't know how I feel about, like, I just feel like the romance part, I don't get their connection yet. But what I do like, or I guess is more relevant, is the main character, her mom has dementia. And so it shows a lot of like caretaking, and it really goes into the sacrifice of you have to do for families, and there's a toll it takes on families. And so I feel like that part's really relatable just for like, you know, even for our book club or just, you know, experiences in general. We've talked about how caretaking isn't shown enough. So I do think for that alone, it is worth reading. I just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just like prolonging. Like, do I want to know how it ends? I already like seen some spoilers about it, which is annoying because people, why are you posting spoilers about the ending? But yeah, currently what I know of the ending and what I've read, I'm like, why is that the ending? You know? So I'm like one of those things where I'm like, oh, but I need to read it because I want to like let the next person read it since there's like a long waiting list. So I'll finish that one. But right now I'm like, I'm not sure how I feel. But I do think like the representation is super important, and it does feel real from like, I haven't dealt with Alzheimer's, but just like the sacrifices and the support and stuff, like that's very relatable.
Yeah.
And the next book that I just finished was Tara Dewitt's Co-op. And I've read another one of her books called Savor It, and I actually really liked Savor It. It just felt like a very cute, kind of more slow burn romance, which I liked. The Co-op one is about, basically they were like teenage lovers, had like a miscommunication type thing, hadn't seen each other till adulthood, and they both were like in a will from their grandmas were lesbians that married each other. So like, yeah, and so they like were hooking up as teenagers. They fell in love, but like it's complicated. He said he didn't love her even though he did. So they came back as adults. For some reason it didn't connect to me as much as Savor It. I just like wasn't as like enthralled with it as Savor It. I thought it was just like very sweet. I don't know. I think I like the slow moments more in romance books, where just like slow moments where you get to know each other. I don't know. Maybe that's just what I'm in right now. Who knows? Okay, to rewind a book that I read. This is my favorite book that I've read in April. And I was sending this to Kendall and being like, oh, I just saw a video about this book and it was a griefy book. Let's consider it for the book club. I'm on this long waiting list on Libby, and I didn't realize that it was a book that I ordered on Book of the Month. And so as I was like patiently waiting for it, I opened my box and I was like, wait, this is the book that I've been waiting for, Livy.
It was like a day or two difference. Like it was like he
Yeah.
told me about it, and I was like, okay, yeah, definitely. We'll look into it and see if anything comes out about whether it be a good book club book. And then you like the next day, you're like, actually, I have it.
Yeah, I was like, I got it. And I read it so quickly. And so this book I really like a lot because I think it's just so it's so griefy, but also like there's romance and things, but I feel like it's so relatable. And basically the plot is that the woman character, the FMC, she lost her boyfriend. And one of the things that they were going to do was he wanted to move to New York and start a life there together. And she was going to move with him to New York. And her life was basically, she was planning her whole life around her boyfriend's like life. Like he wants to move to New York. He wanted that to be a thing. They actually had broken up right before he passed away. And so she's just like feeling really lost. So she hadn't moved to New York, but she did because she just was like depressed, like sad, just felt lost, felt guilty because they broke up, all these different things. So she moves to New York, but then she's just like not really living. You know, she's just kind of like working odd end jobs. She doesn't feel passionate about anything, doesn't want to date. I think it's been like 2 years or something since he passed. Like she's just kind of lost. And I feel like that is so relatable with grief that you just like, it's hard to care about things. It's hard to feel like it feels like your spark, it just gets like, you know, blown out. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really good way to explain it. It's just like, it feels like what's lighting you up for life is just gone because when you lose people that you love, it just feels like nothing matters. And like, are you that excited for stuff? Are you, you know, whatever. And so this book, she's going through that and then she meets the main character and they go on a date, but then it just like, it's a weird, just funny scenario. They don't actually like go on a date and then they decide to be friends. And she shares a little bit about her background of, you know, New York, and her ex-boyfriend passed away. And he basically offers her to like do a passion project, which is the name of the book, is like every weekend we're going to do one thing so that you find your passion. So it was just like, you know, going to doing like art, like a drawing class, and like going, I think one was like going to like sit into a business class, like just doing a bunch of different random things to kind of help her find passion. And then of course, you know, they fall in love as expected in a romance book. But I feel like it was so important, and it's something that we talk about too, is like you need to find that passion again. And it's something that like I try to do, is like try different things that will bring joy to your life and try to make you feel excited for life again, which is so important and not really easy to do. And so I thought that it was really cute and very relatable, of just like her talking about it and the guilt you can feel and just so many real emotions with grief, and then trying to find passion again. And so I thought this was a really good book. So highly recommend if you like romance but also like reading about grief stuff. So this is my favorite read of April, The Passion Project.
It looks really fun.
Yeah, it's a good one. Did you find another book that you read?
Yeah. Well, these are books. One I'm in the middle of, it's taking me forever to read. And then, yeah, two I'm about to start. But one's a book club book for a book club I'm a part of here where I live. But we'll start with this one because I feel like it's more relevant. Yeah, so this one I've had for a while, and it's a horror book.
Of course.
But it's called A Fig for A Fig for All the Devils, and it's very griefy. That's what I've heard a lot about. It's very much about death. In fact, it's about a kid who I think loses his father and creates an imaginary friend in like the Grim Reaper. And it's funny because like the people, like the quotes on the back are like, it's funny yet deep, scary but poignant. It's a thriller, but also a meditation on loss. So I don't know how this all comes together.
I wouldn't know what to think of that. Yeah, like what do you...
I know. I was like, that's a lot. And it's kind of a short book. Like, I was like, how do you fit in all these things? But something I was looking at the inside and I was like, I've never seen this before. And I thought it was a cool little thing to include, was that the author created a playlist that you can listen to while you read the book. So you can scan it and it's a Spotify playlist. And it's just kind of like eerie music.
What kind of feels does it give you for that?
Well, it starts off with the Shining theme, so it starts off pretty daunting. But just a couple songs in, but I wonder if it gets a little bit more lighthearted because on the back description, he says his Reaper, his Grim Reaper, is a junk food loving, poetry reading, cigarette addicted entity. And I was like, what an interesting way to depict death, you know? So
Wow.
that'll be interesting to see how that goes. It seems
That's
like a
a
wild
lot.
ride. Yeah.
That seems like a lot of emotions there.
Yeah, yeah, and I was gonna read it to see if it would be a good pick for the book club, something a little different than what we normally do. So, but I don't know. We'll just see. I'll read it, see how it goes, and then we'll make a determination later. This one, Another Bullshit Night in Suck City, which is kind of like also a wild name to throw out there.
That is such an interesting name for a book.
Yeah, I know, very compelling. And it's by Nick Flynn, and if it's by like, I think maybe the guy who had a drug addiction, and then like he writes a memoir about his drug addiction, and then his father is trying to help him. There's a movie I think called Beautiful Boy from the father's perspective of like having a son addicted to drugs. So I don't know if it's the same guy or if they just have the same name. Don't know, but interested to see what this is about homelessness and Boston. And then the other one that's taken me a while to read is kind of a doorstop, but it's Overstory by Richard Powers. And it's a short story collection as well. It says it's a novel, and I think it's because all the stories do connect somehow, but each chapter is its own individual story about a person. And specifically, I think nature lovers would love this book because it's about humans' relations to trees. And you might be thinking, like, what interesting things can be said about trees? A lot, allegedly, because I'm reading each chapter and I'm like, wow, we do have such beautiful connection with trees and nature and how this all intertwines. It's a real beautiful representation of like ecosystems, but ecosystems larger than a scientific context. An ecosystem in regarding to our emotions, to our surroundings, and how does nature play into that. So yeah, each chapter like covers a different type of like tree and an emotional response humans have to them. But it's been taking me a while, so I'm hoping I can like just hurry it up, crank it out, and be done with it.
Yeah, and then for the rest of her TBR, we're gonna send her to NetGalley to read a few. Do you have anything else on your like you haven't started yet?
Yeah, I like a whole. I'm reading a lot of business books as I'm looking to start my own business, but I don't want to include them here. I don't want to bore anybody.
Well, if you find a particularly good and interesting business book, feel free to share that one. Oh, sorry. So I just started reading this. I got this from the library as the one like fun book from my collection of books that I got that are more grief related. So I just saw that it actually one of the author that's like recommending this book is Tara Dewitt, which is the author of one of the books I just read.
Oh, how funny. Full circle.
Full circle. So this book, I feel like it's more insta love from the get-go. It's like they almost hook up in like the first few pages, which I'm not a fan of. I'm actually like I don't mind spice, and sometimes it like makes sense, sometimes I like reading it, but I need to feel the connection.
Mm.
And I don't think everyone cares about that in the books, but I do. Like I want to feel like, okay, you like each other. But
Yeah.
you don't always feel that. This, it's like as soon as he saw her, he was like, in his head, he's like mine, and I'm like, I don't like when I'm not a fan of those. I think a lot of people do like that, and no judgment to. I think a lot of people like that kind of possessive mine. Like, yes, I do want a guy to really like me, but for him to say mine, like I don't know, and then hook up like 5 seconds later, where you're not clear about like what you're, looking for. Like if you just want that, like go for it. Like support you, do you? But when it's supposed to be like this, like looks like it's like romance, not just like a hookup. Like they're I need more. You just can't convince me that like from them hooking up in the office, 5 minutes of meeting each other, that like they're gonna be meant to be. But that's what I have a hard time with. Like if you just want to hook up, that's fine. But I don't believe that it's like then a really cute love story. But I'm only like a few chapters in, so could be wrong. But I kind of just like I was reading last night and I was like, not really the vibe I'm going for. But I do like that it's like representation and stuff is great. So I want to support that. And I think it does fit a lot of romance formulas. So I think if you like that, a lot of people do like the possessive like instant love connection type of thing. So if you like that so far, it's really good. And I think for representation alone, check out this book to read different love stories. So I will finish it. But just not my favorite. Like Insta Love is just like not one of my favorites. The other books that I just got from the library, The Grieving Body by Mary Frances O'Connor, PhD. So that tells you it's a serious book.
And this is the same author, Rob, from what is this? Obsessed with Death was talking about, but it was The Grieving Mind.
Oh, is it?
So I think this is in the same vein because he was talking about The Grieving Mind, and this must be before or after, I don't know, but the same author regardless.
Kendall has a better memory for that. And I'm the one that asked him again for, I mean, he told us both in our episode, but I went back and asked him for the title, and Kendall's the one that remembers it. So
I think it must have subconsciously stuck though in your mind because you picked it up.
Well, I picked it up because it was one of the staff like April or March recommendations were all like grief related and like mental health related, which I don't know if we missed like griefy month or something, but they were all recommended. Yeah. I'm like, we're always grieving awareness month for us. So, you know, whatever.
It's Grief Awareness Day every day around here.
Yeah. But for season 3 of our other podcast, we talked about wanting to talk about like the choices that we're making to like try to live a good life, you know, share that journey, share those things. So I thought it'd be good to start reading more actual grief books to have some reference points, especially people with like, you know, PhDs of other viewpoints. And yeah, it's like one of the questions is like, can we die of a broken heart? What happens to our bodies when we're grieving? How do our coping behaviors affect our physical health? What is the cognitive impact of grief? Why are we more prone to illness during times of enormous stress? Like, I think it's important topics to discuss and be more aware of. So yeah, I'm gonna be reading this book, and then I'll look if they have her other book about the mind, because that one was interesting, where he said that like losing someone that you love is like losing a limb, and your body like it's like basically a thing where like you lose a leg but you can still feel it. It's like that feeling, like that phantom feeling, because it's like it's a really hard concept to be like someone's just gone, and that is like a phantom feeling that like, how are they just gone? You know, it's a weird thing. So interesting. This one, is this a memoir? So this one is You Will Get Through This Night. So this says, learn how to manage your thoughts and feelings in tough times, change your everyday habits to healthier and happier, and understand your behavior and how to treat yourself with compassion to tackle life challenges. So it's not like grief related. It's by Daniel Howell. I mean, it is grief related in a sense of like, I think how you manage your thoughts and your feelings and what you do is so important, because grief is always there. Like, I wake up and every day I know that my parents and my sister are gone, and I feel like I wake up in a deficit because of that. Just, it's an automatic thing, and it's not like I'm trying to be sad or whatever. It's just like, it is automatically sad that every day I wake up without them. And so it is like a challenge to be like, okay, how do I then switch my mindset to like, this is gonna be a good day and this is gonna be a good life? Like, you have to be so active about it. So I think this book will be a good book to reference of just other things that you can do to try to make yourself to just keep actively working for positivity and joy and happiness, because the sadness is gonna be there and you're always gonna feel that. So this book, what is this book? The River Has Roots. I just like got all these books and I'm like, what is this? Is this even grief related?
It looks like a pretty cover.
In the small town of Thistlewood, on the edge of fairy. Oh no, this one's like, this is like magic-y fairies. The mysterious Hawthorne family tends to the willow trees there. For as long as anyone can remember, the Hawthorns have paid tribute to the willow trees, honoring an ancient compact to sing to them in thanks for their magic. None, though, have taken up this calling more devotedly than the family's latest daughters, Esther and Isabel, who cherish each other as much as they cherish the trees. But when Esther rejects a forceful suitor in favor of a lover from the land of fairy, not only the sisters' bond, but also their lives will be at risk. So I chose this one because it was like about sister bonds. And as a grieving sister, I chose this, but it also has like fairy stuff, which I love. I also romance, whatever, magic. But it's also like very short. So I don't know if this is like a short story. This is like incredibly short. So I might not like that because, like I said, I'm very iffy on short stories. And then this book, I feel like we've seen this a lot. The Body Keeps Score Brain, Mind, and Body and the Healing of Trauma. This one's like a thicker. Have you read this one?
I have. I think I tried to start it and then didn't read it in time before it lapsed. But I am really interested, and I think I'll read it with you when you start it. Because a lot of people do reference it in trauma, PTSD, pain, grief.
Yeah. A pioneering researcher transforms our understanding of trauma and offers a bold new paradigm for healing. And this is by Bessel van der Kolk, MD. So I think that's another good book. So I'll let Kendall know when I start actually reading this. I think it is important to like be able to reference some of those things that we can share while we're talking about our grief journeys and the decisions that we make, and be able to like tell people like you can read more about it in these books. So I think that's important to do. But yeah, I did get a pretty thick stack of books from the books, or from from the library.
And how was the San Francisco library?
So there's a bunch. The really nice one is in downtown. It's like the bigger one, and they have events there. So that one's really pretty. The one near me is a really nice building on the outside. It just looks like a normal library in the inside. The outside does look very pretty though. But I actually like only got my library card last year because when I was a kid, I had a library card and I would go to the library pretty often. But like, I remember when we moved out when I was like of the house when probably like 15, I found like books from the library, like from a kid, and I was like, uh-oh. And it's like, am I in charge of being the one to return these books at like, 10, whatever? I don't know. And I just held that. I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna find me. Like, I didn't return this book.
Fine is outrageous.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, am I responsible for it?
Someone as criminal?
As like a 9-year-old? Like, do I need to? And so I was like so scared. And then I was like, okay, I wasn't even an adult, whatever. So I finally signed up because I'm like, you can get Libby, you can get Hoopla, you can do all these different things. So I was like, I need to actually sign up. And so I finally did. And yeah, it's been great. I've been using mostly Libby, but I do also like reading real books. So I got both. So go support your local libraries, people. There's a really pretty one in Mill Valley that you probably really like. It's like very naturey. I've never been.
How lovely.
Yeah, people always like post videos inside. It looks really nice. So that is on my to-do list, is to go to Mill Valley and do that.
Really libraries. Cool. Yeah, go support your libraries. They're great resources.
Do you have any other books that are on your list? I feel like my list is really long.
Yeah, I seem to like keep like 7 or 8 books in rotation at one time, but these are the ones I'm going to put focus into, and I have like ones that I actually have to finish, especially the book club book. And then I try to keep at least one griefy book in the rotation just to have stuff and prepared for the art book club. And then just other books for fun. So, and then also business books. I have a lot of those and ranking up. But then there's also times where I'm like, throw it all to the wind. I'm just going to read a book I'm in the mood for. And at the end of the day, where I know we joke that I read more of like the memoirs and biographies and kind of these more like denser books, but if it keeps you from reading and you're just not interested, I think if you just go to your bookshelf and you're like, you know what, I'm in the mood for like the fluffiest, happiest, shortest book on my shelf, and as long as you're reading, that's all that counts. So I mean, currently this is my plan, but who knows, by next month it might completely change.
Yeah, I've noticed that my book taste has really changed after grief, that I don't lean towards the heavier, denser books as much anymore, because I look for like happier worlds in books.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like a nice treat. And if it's a heavier book, unless it's like for the book club that might like correlate, it's still learning, it's good, whatever. It's not what I reach for, because I'm like, I'm going to reach for a book that looks like this or something, just like a happier book, even though, 50-50 on this right now. That's what I realize is like, my brain is just like, I'm looking for something happy that will get me through. So yeah, I didn't even realize like, oh yeah, my book choices really have changed, just because like what I want to read about is just like happier things, not as crazy. Like I used to really be interested in reading more like history books and like war books. I thought it was really interesting. It's important to know history, but now I'm like, that shit's sad.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said that when you're grieving, your brain is tired. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like as if like for your body, you've been exercising for really long and you're sore. And that's kind of what it feels like when you're grieving all the time. It's just like you don't want to work your brain even more. And so I have found that too, that after losing my dad, I didn't want to read as dense a book, so that required a lot of brain power, that it was easier. It was how I ended up picking up A Court of Thorns and Roses for the first time, because my sister's like, it's just really easy to read. It's just really easy to fall into this world, and there's something to be
Yeah.
said about escapism. And if that is healing for your grief journey, then I say do it. If that's a reprieve from the pain you're feeling, then you should absolutely indulge in those moments where you can feel happiness and excitement and pain, but in a safe way, or like shock and tragedy, but in a storyline, not in real life.
It's amazing how books can take you in different places. Whatever direction you want to take, whatever is on your healing journey, whatever is helpful, it's such a nice respite from everything else. It's a good way to like get off electronics, get off your phone. You can just go into so you can take into nature, you can take on a plane. Like it's such a good thing when I think when everything's moving so fast, you could be stuck to your phone, connected to everything. It's good to have books as a thing to just like bring you back to like a certain state of just like focus and staying focused on one thing. I think that's so important, and I think our brains are being trained to not. So I think it's really important to still read whatever you're reading. You know, I think you can learn lessons and take away things from all types of books, and your experiences will also affect how you read books. Obviously, there are some bad books that you might be just like, that was whatever. But still, I think, you know, even if it's not that well written, but it's maybe like the romance is really cute, or the storyline, whatever it is, or the point of the book is something you get. Like, if you're fine reading it in that style, like whatever makes you happy, just your choice is your choice.
Well, I was going through a reading slump when I was taking care of my dad, and then after he died, and I just didn't have the desire to read anymore. I kind of just lost the joy of it. So I went through like a year-long reading slump. And I found a YouTube video. It was kind of like my introduction into like BookTube and realizing there's a whole book community out there.
Huge.
Huge, massive. And just people who love books talking about books. There's a long video, it's almost like a documentary, called Bookshops, The Golden Age of Media, by Max Joseph. And he's a director in like Hollywood. But he's like, I want to read more. I spend too much time on social media, and I would like to read more books because I know it's good for me. And he kind of compiles all these tips from all these thought leaders and experts, and kind of distilled down to the point of that, for one, as long as you're having fun, you're going to continue to read. So at a point when you're reading and you're not having fun, yeah, you're going to put the book down and you're going to be like, this is not an enjoyable experience. So, you know, whether it's people who really love the nonfiction or really deep into fantasy fiction, as long as it brings you a sense of enjoyment, that should be a core focus. But I love at the end of the video, he gets to the point of that reading puts you in touch with the quiet part of yourself. And that could be any story or any narrative from any author, to have a point of reflection and meditation through reading. And that is a very healing activity to do, especially when you're grieving and you feel lost and alone. Books provide this space to look at your grief, but maybe through different ways.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like I've learned a lot through reading other people's story. Like I've said before, I've leaned more to reading like fictional stories about grief, but the ones that I'm drawn to aren't the ones that just mention grief in passing.
Yeah.
It's when people accurately depict grief and it shows people's choices and what they do and their struggles. And I think that to me is the most interesting, because every day you're making choices about your grief and how you handle it and what you do about it. And it's just interesting. It's like more input, whether fictional or not, like they got that information from somewhere, whether their experience or they, studied it or whatever. It's still another, we're like, okay, that's interesting. Would I've done that? And even like the Passion Project, that one was very interesting of just, I think it's so important to, and where we're kind of heading towards our podcast is like to find that passion again for your life. which is hard. It's harder than people give it credit for when you lose people that you love. I think there's books like that have a really important message that can hit home, closer to like, okay, that is something. If I'd read that like 2 years ago, I'd probably been like, oh, I'm not doing that enough. I'm not trying enough. Versus now I'm like, okay, that's something I'm actually doing. Like, I feel like I'm my own passion project of like figuring out stuff that I like to do and trying it. But like, a year or 2 years ago, I'd been like, I'm really not. I'm lacking this. So good book. If you're in your grief and you're feeling a little stuck, I think that's a good book to inspire you to try stuff. For sure. Do you have any other book stuff that you're excited are coming out?
I am excited to read the latest Hunger Games book that just came out. I haven't started it yet. I want to reread all the other books before I get to it because I forgot a lot of what happened in the series. But super excited for that one.
I read the original books and I've watched the latest movie, but I don't remember most of the plot either.
Yeah. Same.
But for me, Emily Henry's A Big Beautiful Life is coming out, and I think it's similar. Like Emily Henry, she's a woman's fiction writer. She's not a romance writer. Like, romance is just a part of the plot. And I've heard that about A Big Beautiful Life. And I don't remember what it's about, but I wonder if it's grief related or there's grief or something related in it. But I like the title. Yeah. So I am excited for that. I'm on hold for it for Libby, which I don't know when I'm gonna get it. But I have a bunch of books to read, so like no rush. I'm just gonna try to avoid any spoilers. But I had the same thing where I think people are going into the Abby Jimenez book thinking it's just romance, and her books are bigger than that. So I think if you're just looking for like this, you're gonna have a very different experience if you talk about heavier, bigger topics. So I think there's that. But I'm excited because I feel like it sounds like it's going on heavier topics, in which I'm excited to read it whenever my number gets called on Libby. But yeah, I'm excited for that. Hopefully it's a good book. I'll get it at some point. We'll see. Whenever I'm sure I'll announce it. I'll be excited to get the real one. But there's any other book news that you're excited about before we wrap this episode up?
No, I think.
So what is our next book club pick?
Yes, this one, it's going to be super short, but Joan Didion's Blue Night. And a lot of people have heard of her other one, The Year of Magical Thinking. And that one's a little bit longer and about kind of the immediate thoughts after the loss of both her husband and her daughter. And it's a top grief book that a lot of people refer to. Blue Nights I don't hear about as often, but I find it a little bit more sentimental and sweeter and kind of just a different approach about a mother grieving her daughter years after she's gone and the memories you become consumed with as you begin to age in life. So it'll be a short little read that, those following along can clock on their book list for the year. So I hope people will enjoy it and want to read along.
Yeah, we'll post it and see if people want to read along with us. And maybe if people want to like do an actual virtual meetup or something and talk about the book. Try to make it a little bit more interactive for everybody. So that's all our book news. Our next episode will be for Joan Didion's book, and we're just going to do one episode per book for like going over the plot and talking about main takeaways and things about each book. And then the other episodes we're going to just be talking about like book news, any fun things about books, and kind of mix it up. And then our NetGalley list will probably be a little shorter each time because it'll be actually caught up since the first time actually sharing NetGalley books. So I'll probably have like 1 to 2 NetGalley books and just talk about other books that we're reading. So yeah, we just want to talk more about books in general and not just griefy books. So stay tuned for the next episode where we go through Kendall's pick.
Yay!
Bye, everyone.